Please be seated. Please be seated. Thank you very, very much. Now, some of you looking at me and saying, I've seen him somewhere, looks familiar, looks familiar. I might have driven your taxi for you. You might have shoplifted at my dairy. I recognize some of you, yeah. You may have come to my kebab stand. It's good to be here, good to be here. And I was looking at the video again and thinking about when I was in Auckland, the conference, I'd go and introduce myself and talk to people. What church are you from? Every second, third person said, I'm from Connect, I'm from Connect, I'm from Connect, I'm from Connect. And this church needs to know that because of your servanthood and service, you touched hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of lives worldwide simply by showing up. So if you are from this church and you were a volunteer at Spirit and Truth in Auckland, can you stand up? Can you stand up if you're a volunteer? If you're a volunteer. Yeah, did you do anything? I don't know. Yeah. It's like, stand up, man. You were there at least. All right. I want the rest of the church to know that these people you're seeing standing, and there's someone who are not in this room, did an amazing job and represented you so well. Can we one more time say thank God to them? Yeah, you may be seated. You may be seated. Yeah. And you already know this, but I have to remind you that this church is blessed with some amazing pastors. Pastor Adam, Pastor Anita, the white guy and the Indian lady. Yeah, what an amazing, amazing leaders they are. And can we thank God for who they are? Thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for showing us how it's really done. Thank you so very, very much. I see a towel over here. Don't plan to work that hard. Yeah, I have some friends who start sweating before they start. I used to do all that, then I figured out they pay you still the same. So it's so why do you want to shorten your lifespan by going through all that work when you don't have to? Isn't the purpose of life is work less, make more? That's the purpose of life, and that's how we do things. My name is Sam. I am originally from India. I went to the United States when I was 20. Next week I'll be 67. I'm married with children, grandchildren. Any grandparents in here? Yeah. Oh, the joys of grandparenting. If I knew having grandkids was that much fun, I'd have them first. Absolutely, just skip over the kids. It's like, you all can go. You can leave. You know, my kids ask me, Dad, you never let us do what you let them do. And I remind them, you're my kid. They're my grandkid. Yeah. What's about grand you don't understand? That's right. Yeah. I want you to imagine for a moment you're in the supermarket, in the grocery store, and you just jump in there to pick up a few items on the way home. You just, you know how we do things. Just nobody ever buys what we used to buy forever kind of groceries. It's just enough for tomorrow kind of thing. And I want to imagine you're in the grocery store and you just jump in there to just get a few items. You're in a hurry to get home. You got your trolley, and you got your stuff in the trolley. But you're number 2 in line. There's somebody in front of you. And they've got their trolley, you got your trolley. And as you're standing with your trolley behind their trolley, what are you doing right now? You're counting what? Items in whose bag? Trolley. You're counting items in their trolley. You all are very sick. And you count and you come up with 12. But the sign says 10 items or less. You're in the express lane. Now all of a sudden the dynamics shift. You're not in a regular lane, you are in an express lane. And you count 12, but you've been wrong before, so you do a recount. Anyone know what I'm talking about? And you come up with 12 again. And now you want to say something to them, but you don't know they might be from Connect Church. They might be from the other 2 services that you don't go to. But you still want to express your displeasure to them. So can I tell you how Christians say abusive words? Everything you wanted to say gets said right then. Because waiting is difficult. Okay, stay with me in the supermarket. Stay with me in the grocery store. So now you got more items than 10. And so there are 3-4 lanes open there. And you have to pick a lane, right? Eventually you have to pick a lane. A lot of calculus, trigonometry, geometry, arithmetic, algebra goes into picking a lane. And you have a computer up there. The first thing you do is you look at who the checkout person is. And you say, no. Then you see how many people in the lane. Then you see how much stuff they have in their lane. And you don't want to get behind friendly people, because they might end up talking to the checkout person. It's like, you came to buy. Take care of business. You can talk about Jesus another time. You can always invite them to connect. Right now, I'm behind you. And you eventually pick a lane. You're in this lane now with your trolley. Do you all do the same thing? Other people have got their trolleys and then do you all do the same thing? You keep an eye on your competition? I'm going to have you raise hands on that one. Anybody does that? Now I'm going to wait again. There's some of you liars in this room. Yeah. And you are there now. But while you are taking your business here, you are also keeping an eye on them. Now, if they make it out before you, it's a bad day. But if you make it out before them, that's what you get for going to Connect Church. Because waiting is difficult. And yet we spend so much of our time doing what? Waiting. I fly a lot. Last year, I was on 178 flights. Waiting. Everywhere. There are lines everywhere. If you go to India, there are no lines. It's a mob. There's just line, what line? We drive everywhere, you know. I know in this room, how many can you seat in this room normally? 350. In India, about 10,000 people can be in this room. Because waiting is difficult. When you're leaving the parking area, you'll have to wait on some slowpoke in front of you. It'll happen today. And doesn't matter how blessed you are, it's like, come on, move on, granddaddy. Waiting is difficult. In Mark chapter 5 is a story of a daddy. His name is Jairus. Jairus has a daughter. She's 12 years of age. She's not named, but she's 12 years of age. Jairus needs a miracle because she's very sick. He hears that Jesus is coming to town. In fact, Jesus is on a boat. So he meets Jesus at the boating dock. And as Jesus is coming out of the boat, he says to Jesus, hey, listen, I've got a daughter. She's 12 years of age. She's very, very sick. She's about to die. The doctors have said she's going to die. Will you come to my house and heal her? Jesus says, no problem. That's what I do. So, Jesus starts moving with Jairus, the daddy, through town. As he's going through town, word gets out, Jesus is in town. And a mob starts forming. People start honing in on him to the degree he can't move anymore. Jairus is the daddy who's taking Jesus to his 12-year-old daughter who is dying. Now Jesus is slowed down. What is Jairus feeling right now? Hey, my daughter is dying. You are in the way. And the question for us this morning is, what do you do while waiting on your miracle? Because see, all of us are waiting on some kind of a miracle in our family, on our job, in our finances, in our physical life. We're waiting on some kind of a miracle in our life. And here is Jesus slowed down and finally stopped. Jairus is frustrated. If I was Jairus and my daughter was dying and Jesus was me and he could not move, I'd be very frustrated, angry maybe. While he stopped, a woman appears in the crowd. This woman has been hemorrhaging for 12 years. For 12 years. Hemorrhaging. So you know she's weak. She's anemic. She tells Jesus that she used to have money, but now she spent all her money on doctors and nothing has worked out. She reaches over and believes for a miracle and touches Jesus' skinny jeans. Read your Bible, it's all in there. And she's healed instantly. She feels, after 12 years, all of a sudden, I'm not hemorrhaging anymore. So Jesus starts talking to her. What is Daddy Jairus feeling now? Hey, woman, you got healed. Go on. Carry on. And Jesus starts talking to her. In fact, if you read Mark chapter 5, verse 33, it describes the kind of lady she was. It says she told him everything. You know people like that? You ask them, how you doing? Just to be courteous. Not that you care. They happen to be right there. You had nowhere to go. Because you are a courteous person, you say, how are you? 3 hours later, So this lady starts telling him everything. What is Daddy Jairus feeling now? While he is talking to this woman, she's kneeling, Jesus is standing. While he's talking to this woman, Jairus is standing right here. Messengers come from Jairus' house saying to Jairus, your daughter just died. Don't bother Jesus anymore. What's Jairus feeling now? Glad you got healed. Thanks to your healing, my daughter died. I was first in line. You bumped my line. Waiting on his miracle. But we know the rest of the story too, in the same chapter. Jesus talks to this lady, and then he goes on to Jairus' house. The girl is dead, and he raises her from the dead. Story starts here when he talks about his daughter. Story ends here when his daughter is resurrected. But not only is there a story of Jesus, Jairus, daughter being raised, it's really a contrast of two dying women. How old is this girl? 12 years. How long has this woman been sick? 12 years. So this woman has been sick as long as this girl has been alive. This girl, the daddy, by the way, was a big deal. He was a big shot. He was the administrator of the synagogue. So his house was inside the compound of the synagogue, of the temple. So the girl was an insider. This woman was an outsider. You see, according to the law of Moses, this woman, because she was hemorrhaging, was considered unclean. And because she was unclean, she was not allowed to go inside the synagogue. Now, it's one thing not to go to church on your own. It's another thing for someone to say, you can't. Your family can, but you can't. According to the law of Moses, if somebody touched her, they became unclean and out of society for the period of time that they had to be recertified. So, this woman has for 12 years not been inside the synagogue, and not only that, she has not had human touch on purpose for 12 years. She's somebody. She's somebody's wife, somebody's daughter, somebody's niece, somebody's cousin, somebody's mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. She's somebody. But for 12 years, no one has touched her on purpose. So she is physically sick. She is emotionally bereft. She is spiritually out of covering. She is financially destitute. It's a story of two dying women. Not only that, this girl comes from the rich side of town. This woman comes from the poor side of town. This girl did not have faith for her own because she is dead. This woman had to come with faith for herself because her daddy believed. For her, she had to believe for herself. So this is a contrast between two dying women, but both of them are waiting on their miracle. See, regardless of if you are from a rich side of town or the poor side of town, if you are just seeing this challenge or you have been challenged for a long period of time, it really doesn't matter. Waiting is difficult. You're waiting on your miracle. I don't care who you are in this room. All of us are waiting on some kind of miracle in our life. I want to give you 6 principles of what to do while waiting on your miracle. 6 principles. So if you go to Mark chapter 5, and the scriptures will show up on the screen in just a moment. Mark chapter 5, 6 principles from this story. Verse 36. Mark chapter 5, verse 36. As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he says unto the ruler of the synagogue, principle number 1 is, be not afraid. Don't be afraid. Everyone together. Don't be, let me hear you say that one more time. Don't be afraid. So I want to get the scene here. Woman is kneeling. She's just been healed. Jesus is standing. Jesus had this conversation. Daddy Jairus is right here, breathing on Jesus' neck. That's what I would be doing. Pulling on his toga. Come on. Here's Daddy Jairus. Messengers come from Jairus' house, say to Daddy Jairus, your daughter just died. Jesus is talking to this woman, but overhears this conversation and turns around and looks into the eyes of Daddy and says to him, what is it to him? Don't be afraid. Now I want you to notice what Jesus does not say. Jesus does not look at Jairus, the daddy, and say, hey man, be cool. I got this. I'm JC. Jesus Christ. I know what I'm doing. Haven't you heard about Lazarus? I raised him from the dead. I got this, man. Back off. Notice that Jesus does not play into his fear. And he looks on his face, and the first thing he sees is fear. You go to the doctor and they say, well, we have to do a biopsy. Immediately, what grips our hearts? Fear grips our heart. You get a phone call at 3 a.m. Fear grips your heart. It's those moments of life in which Jesus is there with us. But he says to us, principle number 1 is, don't be afraid. I need for you to know, regardless of what the report says, regardless of what you see in front of you, regardless of what you hear, regardless of your fear, I want you to know that Jesus is looking at your faces right now, and he sees the situation of your life. He sees you waiting on your miracle, and he wants you to hear the most important words. Don't be afraid. Because see, fear and faith cannot coexist. Either you live your life by fear or you live your life by faith. Doesn't matter where you are in life. You have to determine in your heart, I will live my life by faith. Principle number 1 is what? Don't be afraid. Principle number 2 is right behind that in the same verse, verse 36. It says to us, only believe. Principle number 2 is what? Only believe. Principle number 1 is? Principle number 2 is? I'm telling you right now, there will be a test. Only believe. The focus is not on the word believe. The focus on the word only believe. So when Daddy Jairus met Jesus at the boating dock, he didn't have to only believe, he was just believing. Because see, she was not dead, she was only sick. So right now, he could take her to a regular doctor, homeopathic, herbologist, acupuncture, give her some good stuff to smoke. Do you all do that in New Zealand? Okay. Some of you acting like you don't know what I'm talking about. But at this point, he was just believing because she is not dead. She is merely sick. Sick to death, but sick. But sick. So he had options. So here he was believing. But now that she is dead, it moves from believing to what? Only believing. Have you not found it in your life? That so often you'll come to those junctures in your life where mama can't help you, daddy can't help you, the government can't help you, the church can't help you, counselors can't help you, banker can't help you, and the doctor can't help you. You'll come to those places in your life where you'll have to say, I have to move from believing to only believing. And that is what the psalmist meant when he said, I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills. From whence comes my help? My help comes from the Lord. You see, unless you come to a place in your life where you can only believe, you'll never see the miraculous work of God in your life. All other options go away. The options that we had here, the alternatives that we had here, the things that we could think about over here go away because you will come to those places in life where you have to only believe. Some of you are in that difficult spot in your life and you know that nobody can really help you with it. You are facing a circumstance in your life that might be so personal. Nobody else might know about it. It is a deeply ingrained thing in your life. But here you are this morning, and you know the only solution to it is God. Nobody else can help you. You have to do what? Only believe. Principle number 3 is found in verse 37. Verse 37. And he permitted no man to follow him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. Principle number 3 is surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with who? Positive people. You see, when you're going through tough spaces in your life, you need people who can pray with you. You need people who can believe with you. You need people who say, God was faithful in my life, He'll be faithful in your life. You need people who have a testimony in their life. You need people who actually love you. You need people who will not judge you but will love you. You need people who lift you up. You need people who call you and check up on you. You need people who are positive around you. So here is Jesus. He comes to the house and He doesn't take anybody else with Him except who? Peter, James, and John. You got to surround yourself with positive people. And that is why church is so important. That is why small groups are so important. That is why home groups are so important. Because you surround yourself with positive people who in the middle of your perplexities, your dilemmas, your challenges of life can hold your hands up, can encourage you, can say, hang in there, don't give up. We are with you. Call me anytime. Who show up, who show out, who help you in every facet of your life simply because You surround yourself with positive people. So before I give you number 4, which by the way is my favorite, let me make sure you got number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 is don't be afraid. Right now you can cheat. I see some of you cheating, so that lady right there. You can right now, but there will be a closed book exam in a minute. Number 1 is what? Don't be afraid. Number 2? Number 3? Number 4 is my favorite, my favorite, my favorite. Verse 40. And they laughed him to scorn. But when he had put them all out. Principle number 4 is kick out the negative people from your life. Let me make sure you get that. 1, 2, 3. Number 4 is what? Yeah. You know who they are. You might be sitting next to one of them. I don't know. I don't know you all. Kick out the negative people. You know, these are the people who always rained on your parade. These people have nothing positive to say. And I don't know. Everybody in this room is psycho. I'm psycho, you psycho. There are degrees of psycho, but we all psycho. And can I tell you why we are psycho? Because whenever we have a new idea, when we have a new plan, we want to do something, what is it about us? We always go to the same people who have never encouraged us. Are you not sick? Why do we go to the same people? And in church, the spiritual ones, and the spiritual ones, they'll say things like, have you prayed about it? Do you ever feel like slapping somebody? In Jesus' name? You said to them, I see a light at the end of the tunnel. Say, oh no, those are the headlights of the train coming. Now, if you're married to one, work it out. In fact, Pastor is going to preach a whole series on how to be married to a negative person. Yeah, he starts next Sunday on that, so. I'm going to leave that one alone right there. You all work it out privately, okay? God started working with the phone company a few years ago. And because he does not want to engage with negative people, he created a thing on there called caller ID. Do you all ever do this? You see him coming in, you look at your phone. Ring number 2. Ring number 3. After the 4th one's going to go to, and you don't feel like calling them back, but you don't feel like taking it either. That's who I'm talking about. So the name shows up. But some of you can't even read. So God worked with the phone company some more and created 2 buttons. A green one and a red one. I would highly recommend using the red one. Bam, bam. And in some cases, hold the red down. It'll make you feel better. It's very therapeutic. It's like slapping them via technology. They don't even know it. They got slapped around. Kick out the negative people from your life. Because see, if you're going to be flying high with eagles, you can't be on the land with turkeys and pigeons and geese and sparrows. The negative people, they start framing a frame of reference. We used to believe in ourselves, but they have put us down so often, so long. We start believing the negativity. So when you're waiting on your miracle, kick out the negative people. Principle number 5, verse 41. And he took the child by the hand and said unto her, Talitha Kumi, which is being interpreted, little girl, I say unto thee, arise. Principle number 5 is speak life to your situation. Speak what? Speak what? Speak. Speak. Anybody can speak death. You tell them, pray for my mama, she's having this. Oh, yeah, my mama had the same thing and she died. You talk about, hey, my 2-year-old kid, he's into everything. Yeah, those are the terrible twos. No, how about the terrific twos? You having some challenges with your teenagers? Well, you know how they are. No, I don't know how they are. I was one of them. I made it out all right. I got beat up with life, but I made it all right. You see, we have a choice of speaking life over our life or speaking death over our life. Anybody can speak death. Anybody can say it's not going to work out. Anybody can tell you, you're too young, you're too old, you're not experienced, you don't have the right education, you're not in the right place, you just don't have it, you just keep on doing what you're doing. Anybody can tell you that. But when you start speaking life over your life, when you start speaking life over your finances, speak life over your marriage, speak life over your neighborhood, speak life over your job, speak life over your future, speak life over your children, speak life over your wife, speak life over your husband, speak life over your church, speak life in the area that you live in. When you're driving around Wellington, when you're driving around Kapiti, when you're driving around different neighborhoods, I speak life. Lord, I speak life. I speak life. Because the Bible tells us that life and death are in the power of the tongue. Speak life. When you're waiting on your miracle, don't speak death anymore. Well, you got this report from the doctor. That is true. But you have to decide whose report you're going to believe. You got to speak life. My father was a Pentecostal pastor, started the church in India. At that time, there were 2 churches in our town, in Lucknow. One was the Assemblies of God Church that was pastored by the famous faith healer by the name of Dr. T.L. Osborne. And then it was my father's church. When I was 4 years of age, I ate some infected food and got very, very sick. Could not retain anything on my stomach. Got really, really sick. My left side got paralyzed. And when you are born into a Pentecostal faith-believing, healing-believing pastor's home, they don't take you to the doctor till you're almost dead. They took me to the doctor finally, and the doctor diagnosed me with diphtheria. Now, diphtheria in those days, and still is, a killer, but it's been eradicated now. So they said to my parents, take him home. He's going to die, 4 years of age. They brought me home, laid me there, waiting for me to die. Family and friends would come, commiserate with my parents. And I just could not retain anything on my stomach. My left side paralyzed. So for over 3 months, I did not stand up. For over 3 months, I did not walk. I was just there dying. Slow death. One day, my dad